Good afternoon. Let me start by saying first, I really appreciate your patience today. We just thought it was a prudent thing to do to wait till we got more definitive information, not only in terms of what potentially could happen, but our course of action relative to it, so I could better answer your questions in this setting. We don't have a lot of definitive answers about long-term what the prognosis looks like. We've been given a mandate to prepare as if the game is going to be played and played on time. And so that is our mentality. We've gone about today's business from a game planning standpoint with that mentality, and we intend to push into tomorrow with the normal scheduled Wednesday and our slate of work for Wednesday. And we'll take it day by day. We've talked openly throughout this process that 2020 is going to have its challenges. We got to be light on our feet, be ready to adjust and have a hardcore plan. We're ready to live that out. We understand the uncertainty, but we got to have a high level of professionalism and singular focus in spite of that. And those are our intentions. That's been the intentions of our staff today. And we'll sell that to our players tomorrow as we begin preparation with them. On the injury front, Watt has a hamstring. He could be classified as out or doubtful, if you will. Doubt that participation is going to lead to play in his regard. Marcus Allen has plantar fasciitis. He could be classified as doubtful. Again, if it perks up, his chances are better than Watt. But again, if you're looking at potential availability there, it is what it is. The rest of it is normal bumps and bruises associated with play. Feel really good about DeCastro's participation and getting back to play. And him and some others, we might limit their availability at the beginning portions of the week in an effort to get them in the very best physical condition we can get them in and proceed into our next challenge. Talking about the Tennessee Titans, man, 3-0. This is a group that has won close football games. They got a definitive personality. They got an awesome play demeanor, one that we respect. They're a rough and tumble group. And so we're looking forward to a challenging game there. They're going to bring the best out in us. If you're looking at Tennessee's offense, man, it starts with working to minimize Henry and his impact on the game. They got a commitment there to running the football and a commitment to running it with him. He leads the league not only in rushing yards, but rushing attempts. They feed that guy the ball, and he's the type of guy that's capable of wearing a defense down over the course of time. And they got a really talented offensive front, and they play really well. Lawan and Sapo, particularly on that left side, wreak havoc. When they win the line of scrimmage, those piles fall forward, and they not only fall forward because of the exploits of the running back, but they fall forward because of the talents and the finish of their front. Man, they're well coached and they play really hard up front. They got really good guys on the perimeter. Their utilization of tight ends, Smith being the leader of that group, but they're very multiple. They challenge you in a big way there. Their wide receiver group the same way. Got a lot of respect for Humphreys and particularly what he's able to do inside on possession downs. Davis is a quality player out of Western Michigan. Can't say enough about what Tannehill has done there in terms of maneuvering their offense, the play-action pass game, the misdirection passing game, the things that complement and supplement their dominant run game are really evident on their tape. We got a big week ahead of us in terms of minimizing some of those things and matching their urgency and intensity in play. On the other side of the ball, they got somewhat of a new group. They have guys like Casey. Darrell Casey is no longer there. Logan Ryan is no longer there. Adoree Jackson is not available to him. So you see some new faces. You see some structural things that are very similar. Obviously, up front, if you're talking about their front, you got to work to minimize Clowney and his impact on the game and the variety of ways that they utilize him. They move him around a bunch. Everybody's got to be prepared to block him. It's a different body type, but it's a similar discussion that we had last week in terms of dealing with J.J. Watt and just in terms of how they move him around and how versatile they are and multiple they are because of it. We'll be challenged there. They just picked up Vic Beasley, and you see them finding their rhythm in terms of utilization of him. Simmons is a guy they drafted in the first round out of Mississippi State. He appears to be the all situations guy up front for him that really has taken the place of Casey. But he does it a little bit differently than Casey. He's he's a power player. He runs over guards and so forth, and has been very disruptive and heating up in a big way. In the secondary, we got a lot of respect for their safety tandem. Both guys play down. Both guys play, in deep middle of the field and deep halves. They'll bring both safeties in the run game on 1st and 10 football. In Joseph and Butler, man, they got a veteran cornerback tandem, and I think that provides big-time versatility for them. Those guys have been around a long time and are capable of executing a variety of schemes and techniques, and this is the type of group that does that, man. They'll float anywhere from 3-4 to 4-3 to a variety of sub-package football, and they'll challenge you in a lot of ways with a lot of personnel groups and throw a lot at you. So we're prepared with an edge. We're better. We got a big game. We got an AFC game on the road against a 3-0 football team, and so we got some challenges this week. We're excited about working to meet them. Questions?
Jerry Dulac?
Mike, do you have, or your players, would you have any concern about going down to Nashville and playing this game in light of everything?
No, we're going to trust the medical experts. If they deem it safe for us to proceed, then we're going to go down there with the intentions of playing to win.
Dale Lawley?
Mike, obviously you're not in this situation, but with the Titans potentially only having one day to prepare in person for this, what kind of challenges would that present as a head coach?
Again, I hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about that. I've got my own set of challenges trying to prepare our group to tackle Henry and so forth. So they're better equipped to answer that than I. I know you guys get a chance to talk to Mike tomorrow. I'm sure he'll probably address it.
Tim Benz?
Mike, has the league sought any feedback from you or the organization about the prospect of potentially moving the game to later weeks where the buys potentially align? And if so, how would you feel about that as opposed to playing it this week on Monday or Sunday?
I'm sure they're pondering the possibilities as they gather information relative to the current circumstance. We or I specifically haven't been a part of those discussions. We're singularly focused on preparing to play. That's the element of the equation that we can control as we sit here today. So we better make good use of the day. And I'm sure those type scenarios and information will be revealed to us and become more clear as we proceed through the week. Right now, we're singularly focused. We got to head down. We're controlling the elements of it that we can control. And that's our planning and preparation to this point.
Aditi?
Coach Tomlin, when you look at TJ Watt and what he is doing so far, what has his growth been over the last few years? What is he providing you that's maybe different than even a year ago?
I think he's still writing that story. He was pretty awesome a year ago, to be quite honest with you. And so I know he has an intention of being continually better. And so he's still writing that story, but his talents are just a part of the equation. His hyper focus, his attention to detail, his awareness, I think all add up to big play making ability and splash plays for us.
Mark Caboli?
Hey, Mike, you made a reference a couple years back about Hargrave and nose tackles about being blockbuster and needing to diversify. Did that also go for Vince Williams at a position that has changed a lot since he came into the league? And how has he been able to do that?
No question. Those 9-on-7 linebackers, if you will, that's what I commonly refer to Vince as. They need to find things to do, man, in today's game as people spread you out and things of that nature. And what Vince has done is add to his rush repertoire. And you see it play out in terms of statistics. He's been a big-time component of our pass rush more recently. And so that's what I mean when I say diversify. He's adding to his toolbox, if you will. And so that's why we're able to utilize him maybe even in more circumstances than we have in recent years.
Brooke Pryor?
Coach Tomlin, you advocated for competitive fairness earlier in the offseason as it related to reopening facilities all at the same time. How do you balance wanting competitive fairness while also preparing your team for this week when the other team may not be able to practice until Saturday?
I was also very clear that once we, left the station and we got all teams into a training camp-like setting, we as a collective, meaning the National Football League, acknowledged that this COVID environment could be challenging to that. And so we all proceeded with that understanding.
Joe Rudder.
Yeah, hi, Mike. I might have missed it, but I didn't hear you mention Deontay Johnson. Is he in concussion protocol, and what's his availability?
He is, and the protocol speaks for itself. I won't speculate there. As he goes through the week, his availability will be determined by that process.
Will Graves.
Mike, do you have any sense of when you'd have to know for sure whether this game is going to go on or not?
I don't. I haven't thought a lot about it, to be honest with you. I've just been trying to have a really good Tuesday, and we'll be doing the same tomorrow. You understand how important Wednesday is from a preparation standpoint, and so that's a big day for us. We'll let people who have that charge make those decisions and considerations.
Alan Saunders.
Mike, does the fact that as it stands right now, they don't know who's going to be available to them when you play make you guys take maybe a harder look at some guys farther down the depth chart as far as individual scouting than you normally would?
No, we just really focus on their high volume things at this juncture of the week, man. Wednesday is about our base versus their base, and it's more about getting familiar with their schematics or their significant players, key matchups relative to the game and so forth. So, if we get to a point in the week where there's still some speculation that we could go down that road, but as I sit here today, we've really just been focused on big ticket items.
Rich Walsh.
Mike, I wanted to ask you a follow up on what Will said. If you have to move the game to a day or even weeks, how much does that change your timeline? And how weird is it that you might have to adjust to potentially playing this game at a later date and not playing this weekend at all?
I haven't pondered it that much, to be honest with you. At times we're challenged, man, and we have to be light on our feet, and we've openly talked about that as a football team throughout this process, and so now we get an opportunity to live it out.
Mark Caboli.
Mike, I'm just wondering your thoughts on how Randy has grown in his play calling over the past 3 years since becoming the offensive coordinator.
I don't have a lot of speculation or insight there. We're all trying to get better. It's more than just him individually. We collectively put plans together. He is the caller on game day, or the primary caller, if you will, on game day. But our schematics are a collective effort from a planning standpoint, and we're all collectively working to grow through this process. And hopefully we've all done that in the right ways over the time span that you mentioned.
Jerry Dulac.
Mike, did Anthony McFarland merit more playing time, and was that a vote of confidence when you began the second half with him in the backfield?
He has merited more playing time. He's had some really good practices. It's a difficult environment for young guys to establish themselves and get the type of feel that you're willing to play them and play them a lot without preseason games and so forth. The process might be, a little bit more cumbersome for him. And he's continually worked hard and earned the opportunity that he got. And I'm sure we're going to continue down that road with he and others.
Aditi Kinkabala.
Coach Tomlin, what was the input that was asked of you, or what input were you able to give when the league was considering whether to play Monday, whether to postpone, whether to change the schedule? What was your interaction in that whole discussion?
None. Those discussions are ongoing. That is their charge. My mentality and our mentality is we're going to proceed as if regularly scheduled until we receive further information. So I hadn't gotten into a bunch of that.
Joe Rudder.
How has Gerald Hawkins assimilated back into the team, and what did you think of him in the jumbo packages?
He's done a nice job getting back on the moving train, if you will. He's held down that job in the past, so it's not a new job for him. But nonetheless, we still like the contributions that we're getting from him. It makes us whole and gives us an opportunity to have the type of versatility we desire.
Dale Lawley.
Mike, Saquon Barkley and some of the other guys that you faced thus far all have the RB beside their name, just like Derrick Henry. But what is it that makes him different from those guys?
Height, weight, speed. I mean, this is a big man who has a run demeanor that's different than others that we face that make him unique. But he needs no endorsement from me. He's got a highlight reel a mile long over the last several years that really exhibits some of the things that we're talking about and concerned about in preparation.
Brooke Pryor.
Mike, you guys have a pretty long drought of not scoring on your first drive. Is that a concern, and how important is it to get off to a fast start by scoring on that drive?
It's not.
Rich Walsh.
Mike, how much have you seen Mike Hilton grow with his role? And does it surprise you at all that he leads your defense in tackles right now?
No, it doesn't. It's just kind of the nature of some of the games we played schematically in the offensive personnel groups that those teams choose to employ. Looking at Tennessee Titans, he might not get those type of opportunities this week, to be quite honest with you. And that's just how it goes. And that's why we're a team and a unit. And that's why we'll continually write that story over the course of the season. If we're having that discussion at the end of the season or at the latter portions of the season, then that's probably a significant story. But on a 3-game body of work, I'm not surprised by anything at this juncture, to be honest with you.
Tim Benz.
Mike, that distinct personality of the Titans you referenced earlier, how much has Ryan Tannehill helped press that or put that stamp on that personality, and in what ways?
Again, I don't have the answer to that because we don't play him every year. We didn't play him last year. And so I just don't have that frame of reference in terms of what his impact might have done to shaping that personality. I personally believe that personality is the personality of their head football coach, who's a fundamentalist and rough and tumble football guy. And that's what their tape looks like in all 3 phases.
Jerry Dulac.
Mike, how were you able to shut down the middle of the field in the second half and kind of neutralize that bunch formation they seem to be using that kind of hurt you in those cross routes early?
More than anything, we made some minor adjustments, but, we moved some people around and we talked openly about some things that we were doing. Oftentimes, as is the case this time of year, it's less about what you're seeing and more about what you're doing and the quality in which you're doing it. And I just thought that our guys knuckled down and got more detailed and were able to adjust to some of the, maybe even some unforeseen things that they presented to us early in the football game.
Aditi.
Coach Tomlin, what are the conversations you've had so far with any players or coaches or personnel who've expressed any concern about facing the Titans? And what will your response be if you have any of those conversations tomorrow?
I haven't had any of those conversations, and really I hadn't had a lot of time for hypotheticals.
All right. Thank you, Coach.